Hello and welcome to the debrief here on the Blood Red channel. I'm Matt Addison and I've got my colleague Theo Squires alongside me after Liverpool booked their place in the quarter-finals of this season's Carabao Cup with a 2-0 victory over Preston North End at Deepdale. It wasn't the greatest of games, Theo, but the Reds are through to the next round thanks to goals from Takumi, Minamino and Divock Origi. What did you make of the game in general? It probably wasn't the best one to watch, but the Reds got the job done.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for, them to get the job done. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp's made a lot of changes, and it's not helped that they've had injuries in recent weeks. So it's sort of forced his hand with naming the lineup. And you could see that there weren't some ideal selections in there, but it was important minutes for a lot of players. And while things didn't come off all the time, at least it was minutes and legs and to give them the opportunity. So the likes of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, I thought he had a reasonable game. Neco Williams, he played really well. He had a not poor start to the season, sorry, but he's not been able to play because of injury. So it was good to get him some minutes. Adrian, I think the first time we've seen him since Sheffield United or something like that. It's been a while since we've seen him in goal. So some vital minutes for players. Since some of the youngsters get a bit of action, a couple of debuts there at the end as well. And all you want is them to get through to the next round. It doesn't necessarily matter how they do it as long as you get the result. First half wasn't the best. Didn't challenge Declan Rudd at all, I don't think, the Preston goal, not a shot on target. Half-time probably came at a good time because Preston had a good few chances before then. But then once the subs were made, I think it was always going to be Liverpool winning it. They certainly changed the game. And it was quite pleasing that the subs weren't turned into Firmino or Jota. It was turned into Nat Phillips, turned into Connor Bradley. The fact that we've got the younger players there or the players who are further down the pecking order, they could come on and help control the game. That was good to see. And it's what you want going forward in the competition. Not going to be able to find out who they got in the next round until the weekend. So just a bit distracted here by the penalty shootout, I'm afraid. I think Phil Foden's just missed. So maybe Man City's hold on the trophy could be up, and it could be a good year for Liverpool to actually have a go at it. That's what you want when you're reaching the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I'll get another update off you on that penalty shootout in a few minutes' time. I've not got it to hand on me, but I will come back to you on that one. But we'll focus on Liverpool for the time being. I want to start with Takumi. Minamino obviously scores the opening goal. He missed a fairly big chance earlier on in that second half. But what did you make of his performance? I think it's 5 goals in 5 Carabao Cup matches now for him for Liverpool. But I don't know, he just doesn't seem any closer really to not a proper game, because this was a proper game, but certainly a Premier League or a Champions League appearance.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's one where if he was going to be turned to in a league game or Champions League game, the minutes would have come by now. It's not really what he's doing in matches, you think, that's going to get him the nod. It's what he's doing in training. But it's hard for him because he's got 3 really good players ahead of him place-wise. You can make that 4 now with Diogo Jota. You're not going to start ahead of any of them. It's about staking your claims when you do get into this team, and that's what he's done tonight. All you can ask when you're playing these games is to score goals, to make an impact. And he was one of Liverpool's brighter players. It was a good finish from him. Yeah, maybe he was a bit unlucky, a bit unfortunate not to do better with the first chance. But then you could put that down to rustiness, couldn't you? Like if he'd been playing every week and he had that rhythm, like we're seeing from Mohamed Salah at the moment, maybe he takes it down on his left foot and just shoots across the keeper and hits the back of the net. Instead, he messes it up. But that's probably what makes him a bit more confident when he takes the second chance for his goal. And it is poacher's instinct. Like Divock Origi wasn't brilliant tonight, and he's just stood flat-footed on the edge of the box, whereas Minamino's there sprinting ahead of his marker, getting the vital touch, and it's gone into the bottom corner. All you want is him to take those opportunities. Like we know the Cup of Nations is coming in January. We know Salah and Mane are going to be departing for a few games. And all you can ask is Minamino and Origi, when they play, they score goals. And it doesn't matter that it's just Preston. If they get in that confidence and they're doing that, they're showing they're fresh, then they can stake a claim when it is time for them in January, assuming that they are the people that Jurgen Klopp will turn to. But yeah, he was one of the better players for Liverpool. And while it wasn't the best team performance, it's always difficult when it is such a makeshift side. So he's done what you want from him tonight.
Yeah, Divock Origi as well, you mentioned him. I know Pep Lijnders described him as a world-class finisher on Tuesday. We did actually see a bit of that with a good improvised finish late on from him. But apart from that goal, again, there wasn't a great deal else to sort of talk about with him. He didn't really make an impact throughout the game. But does that matter if he gets himself on the score sheet? Is that kind of everything in these matches, or does he maybe need to put in a better performance as well as that?
It depends what he's looking to do for his future, really. Like if he's looking to get into the Liverpool first team or have more opportunities to be that go-to option off the bench, he needs to make more of an impact. And we saw this from him last year, didn't we? There were times in games where they sailed by. He floated through games. He wasn't making an impact, and it like he was disinterested. And we know his contract could be expiring, and that he could be someone who moves on in January or in the summer, depending on what the club want to do. And then it's, well, if you want to revive your Liverpool career yet again, you need to make an impact in these games. You need to contribute. You need to look interested. You need to be running and making all these pressing movements, fitting into a Jurgen Klopp side. But then he's got his goal, and what a goal it was! Like it's very Divock Origi-esque finish, isn't it? Like, even then he looks uninterested. He just sticks up a leg above his head, behind his back, and he gets the perfect connection, and it sails over the keeper's head. It's why fans love him, because he is this cult figure. You know you're not going to get 100% from him week in, week out. You know he's inconsistent, but he does come up with big moments. And while it's not going to be as big as a Champions League final or Barcelona, he's played a big part in getting through tonight. And you're going to have to wait now, because this could be a penalty to win it for West Ham. And it is. West Ham through 5-3. City are out. City's hold on the League Cup is over. It's there for the taking if Liverpool really, really want it.
Yeah, still Chelsea and Arsenal in that draw for Saturday, so it's not quite done and dusted yet, but it is a bit of a boost, I have to say, to Liverpool's chances of winning this tournament. But I want to touch on Neco Williams as well. There's a couple of comments coming in on YouTube about him. I thought he was excellent for the goal, and I mean, we know that he used to play as a winger for Liverpool's academy teams. He was then converted into a fullback, and I think he probably showed that tonight. He looked a lot better further up the pitch than what he did in his usual position.
He looked good in both positions, to be honest with you. Like, I think it helped that they had Nat Phillips on in the second half, and he still looked good when he was at right back before Conor Bradley came on. But you could show his attacking abilities, knowing he had that bit more defensive security behind him. Like, it was a great touch and run to get into the box and put this cross in. And there's not many places you can put that cross for Minamino to get ahead of what were three big centre-backs. And he plays it perfectly, and it's a good finish. And he just looked so lively when he was getting on the ball. It was a good run from him to get him behind in the defence in the first place. If you want to be harsh with VAR, I feel it might be disallowed for offside. It was a very tight one, but no VAR in this competition, so he doesn't need to care about that. He doesn't have any complaints. Probably should have scored, if we're honest, late on. That was a bit greedy when you had Minamino screaming for it in the box across as well. But you don't begrudge him going for that. Like, at that point, it's 2-0. The game's done. You know there's barely any minutes left on the clock. Don't begrudge him when he's playing well, a chance to get his first goal for the club. But yeah, it's what you want to see, because he's had some difficult times for the club in the past. Like, we know he got a bit of backlash, didn't he, during the competition last year. We know he was available for transfer in the summer, but he's now still making an impact. He's still improving, and he's still part of the club. You think, well, Liverpool have got these injuries in midfield. One solution to that is putting Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. And that could be a way for Neco Williams to get into the first team. While it might not be further forward, you want him to be able to stake his claim when he does get minutes. That's what the League Cup's for in these early rounds. And that's what he's done tonight. Sky gave him the man of the match, and you'd say it was deserved. A brilliant assist, as I've already touched on. But yeah, it's what you want to see from him. And whether he's a long-term Liverpool player or not, I don't know. But he's at the club now, and he's making an impact. And it was a good performance from him tonight.
Before we get on to a couple more of the senior players, then let's talk about the two youngsters. We'll come to Tyler Morton first. I thought he was certainly the standout of the two, possibly even the standout on the night for me. I thought he was a little bit unlucky to not be rated the same by Andy Hinchcliffe on commentary as Neco Williams, but it was a great pass for the opening goal. You said yourself, it was touch and go in terms of the offside, but there were plenty of good touches from him.
Yeah, he's basically picked up where he did against Norwich, and he just carried it on. Like we saw him in that game, he's good on the ball. He can play these penetrating passes, and that's what we saw tonight. There was one that stood out for me where he tries to thread it through to Oxlade-Chamberlain, and it was inch perfect, and it was just maybe a bit too much pace on it. Oxlade-Chamberlain couldn't quite get it under his spell, but he was good at getting this ball out and playing these passes, whether it was these drilled through balls or if it was the diagonals over the top. He also got a vital touch defensively in his own box, heading a cross away. And it's like, well, maybe you wouldn't expect that from him because you've got two big centre-backs in the box. And Nat Phillips was on at that point. It's Tyler Morton reaching up and heading this clear. Like as I mentioned in the last one, with the lack of midfielders, he's another option there. And you wouldn't have any qualms about that, the way he's playing in these 2 League Cup games, because he doesn't look out of place, does he? And granted, it's a bit different when you're playing a much changed Norwich team or a Championship side. But as I keep saying, you need to take your opportunities. You need to deliver. You need to show that you can contribute to this team, that you're deserving of more chances further forwards in the league and in the Champions League. And when there are so many substitutes allowed to be named in the Champions League, that's where he could get some game times here. I'm not sure if he's in the squad or if he's in list B. Would need to look into that. I'd imagine he's young enough to be on list B, and he's been at the club long enough too. But when Liverpool are basically 1 foot in the knockout stages, he could get a couple of Champions League games in the next 6 weeks. That great experience for him. These are opportunities for these players now, and you know that Liverpool's first team is so good, and it is hard to break into it. Like, they've got some of the best players in the world all over the pitch, especially in midfield, but they have got those injuries at the moment. So if you can show that you can prove yourself in this team, you can step up, state that claim, make that contribution, and that you can be a long-term prospect, the door is open, and then you just need to grab your opportunities when they come. And while it might not be as glamorous as playing a Premier League match or a Champions League match, you just do what you're asked, and that's what he's done tonight against the Preston North End side that played pretty well for the majority. Physical team, lots of bodies in midfield, and he was the one who was controlling it. Liverpool had so much possession, playing so many successful passes, and he was a big part of that.
Yeah, certainly a very decent player, Tyler Morton. I think he's slightly better further up the pitch as well. Quite often plays as a number 8 for Liverpool's under-23. He's got about 15 goal contributions, I think, last season. So certainly a lot more to come from him over the next few months, I'm sure. We've got a touch as well, though, on Harvey Blair, who started on the right-hand side. He played about 55 minutes before he was replaced by Connor Bradley. We didn't see loads of him. He was a surprise inclusion. Never has played for the under-23s, actually, Harvey Blair. So slight surprise that he came into this game, but he did okay. He certainly didn't look out of place, and you can kind of see at the very least why Jurgen Klopp was happy to throw him into this match.
Yeah, the options were limited, and when they've had these other injuries, you can see why he wouldn't want to have played somewhere more senior. You wouldn't want to risk them getting injured, and it's one where, well, Cade Gordon's, I know he's missed a few games with injury himself, so you couldn't put him in, and the door's open for a Blair there to be a sort of natural fit in that position, even though he's not got that much experience. And he did okay for the context of the situation, that he is a young kid who hasn't had that involvement before. Like, you think Tyler Morton and Connor Bradley, Owen Beck, all these other youngsters, they've been in and around the first team. They had pre-season, they've gone away with them. They've had a couple of like the League Cup games or they've been part of the squad. Whereas Harvey Blair, he hasn't, has he? So he looked, it was a bit more difficult for him against a physical side. Like, he had a couple of moments where he was on the ball and he was able to run past opponents and put in crosses or whatever, but they're a bit overhit. It was a raw performance, an immature performance perhaps, but you can't really expect anything different from him. Like, it's not as though it's Cade Gordon. Like, Cade Gordon, you know, he's this big hyped talent. He's played for the Derby first team. He comes to Liverpool and he's involved in the first team. And you're ready to make that step. Blair probably isn't just yet. And he was turned to because the options were limited. You can't expect too much from him. If he'd been playing better, it'd have been on longer. I think Jurgen Klopp knew it was a difficult night for him, but he's given him that opportunity. And it's not something where you can let your head drop. You've just played for the Liverpool first team and you've done a job. And while they did look better when he went off, when they had Connor Bradley on, when Neco Williams could get further forward, that's just the experience of those boys. Like, Connor Bradley, whilst he's only played twice for Liverpool now, he's still a Northern Ireland international. Neco Williams has had a good 2 years in this first team. It might just be the start of Blair's journey, but if he's still part of the Liverpool squad and he's still getting games, he can still progress, and that could be him when there's the next youngster coming through in 2-3 years' time. It's a promising start for him. It's not the best performance, but there's no reason for him to get his head down. He's done a few things, and now he's on Jurgen Klopp's radar. And while you might not expect to see him play in the next round or any other games for the first team this season, he's still got that Liverpool appearance to his name, and that will take him places either at Anfield or elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't take that away from him. There was a good few touches from him and did okay, like you say, but I'm sure plenty more he will hope for in the future for Liverpool. In terms of someone who we've seen a fair bit of over the last few years, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, it was a big opportunity for him, I thought, tonight, and he did okay. There was a few bits where he did quite well, but again, probably a little bit similar to Divock Origi and Takumi Minamino in that he'd probably want to do a little bit more in these games.
Yeah, it's not just happening for him at the moment. Like, he's almost trying too hard. He knows he's not playing as well as he can do and he's at his best, but he's still trying to make things happen. He was unlucky not to score. I think the commentators are a bit harsh on him, saying he's hit it too hard because the angle when he hits that shot from the edge of the box, it only just bends wide at the final moment. He showed good feet getting past players. He was always willing to get on the ball, but sometimes he was trying to force that final pass a bit too much, or he was a bit clumsy. Like, there was one pass where he's tried to play it to Tsimikas, who's like just next to him, and he's basically hit it straight out of play behind the goal. You want to put it down to rustiness because it's not as though he's had consistent game time for a good few months now. Like, he was injured for a fair bit of last season and didn't get back into the side. And Liverpool are going to be turning to him, you'd imagine, in the next couple of weeks. We don't know how long Naby Keita's out for. I know they hope it's not that serious. Same with Fabinho, same for Thiago Alcantara. But there is an opening there against Brighton, and there could be against Atletico. So he's had his chance to prove himself tonight, and it's hopefully a case of get the rustiness out of your system, make a few mistakes there, but get a good game under your belt, make an impact, start to get a feel for it again, and then make a bigger impact at the weekend, and then maybe again next week. Out of the 3 games, if he's going to play in all 3, this is the one where you want him to put in that hot and cold performance. You want him to find that rhythm. He is such a likeable player. He's had some big moments with Liverpool Football Club. And I know he's been linked with a transfer away at times, but it's one where you want it to come good for him again. You want him to be able to stake his claim, put the injuries behind him once and for all, and show why Liverpool spent 35 million on him in the first place. Because he is a very talented player when he's on form, and you're just waiting for him to find that form again. It's going to take time. They're going to have to be patient with him. It's just unfortunate that he's right down the pecking order, so it's going to take that a little bit longer. Whether time runs out for him, I'm sure we'll find out in January or next summer. But there's going to be opportunities for him. He's had one tonight, and he was an experienced player, and he has played a big part in helping his team get through to the next stage. Hopefully, if he's playing at the weekend against Brighton, he can do something similar and show that he is still a talented player in this squad and can make an impact going forward.
And just before we finish then, a quick word on Sepp Vandenberg. It must have been pretty weird for him to come up against Liverpool, having been on loan from them this season. He doesn't actually play that often at centre-back for Preston, tends to play at wing-back, but I actually thought he had a decent game there, and probably Jurgen Klopp would come away from that fairly impressed with what he saw.
I wouldn't be surprised if there were conversations behind the scenes when they were saying, yes, Sepp can play against us, but you have to play him centre-back. So they can do that like little scouting mission there to see him in his actual position. And he did play well. It's always maybe easier for him in a back 3 when you're up against one striker, front 3, whatever. But you think they kept Divock Origi quiet. And while it wasn't purely just down to him, he still had a good game. You can't think of him making any mistakes. And when he was playing for Liverpool, I think it was in the title-winning year when he was given a couple of opportunities, he looked very raw. But he has certainly matured with Preston North End. There was a moment in the second half when he's done a sliding tackle, getting back on Curtis Jones, and hear his name being chanted in the stands. It's what you want to see. Like, he's another one where you're not sure if he's going to be a long-term Liverpool player, but they've brought him in. They've got him some game time at the club. They've got him some game time out on loan, and he's improved from the player they brought in. And it can help him go further in his career. Like, he's played a good, he's going to have a season and a half of championship football under his belt at the end of this year. He's played a couple of times for Liverpool, and he's going to stake a successful career at some level. Whether it's at Liverpool might be a bit hard for him, but he's still a talented centre-back, and he's showing his versatility as well. Like, it wouldn't be easy for any player to get used to playing right wing-back, which isn't his preferred role, and then to be thrown in at centre-back for a rare occasion. And you're going against, well, it's not Salah, Mane, Firmino, Jota, it's still Minamino and Origi. They're still players that won a Premier League title, Champions League title, and he has done well. He's been good in the air, he's looked good on the ball. Might not be enough for him to get in the Liverpool first team, but it's going to be enough for him to stake a claim for a good career going forward. And Jurgen Klopp will be happy for what he saw from him tonight. Like, you see him having, I think, friendly conversations with Origi at the end. No doubt he was one of the players that got a hug off Jurgen Klopp as well. And yeah, hopefully he can go on to carry on this successful time on loan at Preston. He's a very likeable player for them. I interviewed him, I think, at the end of last season, and he loves it there. The fans love him. And while they're not having the best season so far, Preston, they did themselves proud tonight, and you can hope they can build a bit of momentum, get higher up the championship table. Vandenberg can be an ever-present part of that, and hopefully mid-table finish, maybe even pushing for playoffs. There's always that one side that starts a bit deeper. It might be a bit ambitious for Preston this year, but whatever they're doing, Vandenberg is playing his part, and it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll learn plenty in his time. As you say, 18 months there. It's certainly enough time for him to bed himself in and enjoy himself there. So hopefully he can come back to Liverpool having learnt plenty. But that's all we've got time for on this edition of The Debrief. We'll have plenty more reaction to this game later on tonight and across the rest of the week on the Blood Red channel. We'll also be building up, of course, to Saturday's clash with Brighton and Hove Albion at Anfield as the Reds get back to Premier League action. Interestingly, the quarter-final draw, as we mentioned, for this competition will be at 10:30 on Saturday, and I'm sure we'll have all of the coverage of that too. Until next time, though, thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.